What's up, y'all? This is Alex from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be covering every single draft prospect in the upcoming class. In today's episode, we're going to look at the 6'4 guard out of USC, Isaiah Collier. When looking at Collier's game, a couple of strengths stand out. The first of which is he has the ability to make some really high-level passes. While Collier may at times miss simple reads, his ability to make some insane cross-court skip passes is simply impressive. Next, his transition offense is very solid, and he's always a threat to go coast to coast, which is why he averages 1.2 points per possession in transition. Finally, Collier is very talented and skillful when it comes to getting his balance and playing off of 2 feet. This allows him to be a really talented finisher around the rim. There are some pretty large weaknesses to Collier's game offensively. The first of which is the fact that he's a relatively inconsistent shooter. There are stretches where he looks like he can knock down the shots and shoot the lights out. However, there are also stretches where he looks like a complete Russell Westbrook or Ben Simmons type of player. Secondly, he frequently settles in isolation in the pick and roll. Isaiah Collier has a really bad tendency for taking mid-range shots or floaters versus drop coverage where he's off balance and not in a good spot. Finally, Collier is extremely loose with the basketball, and while he has the ability to make these high-level passes, sometimes he's too flashy for his own good and it leads to turnovers. Now, let's look at the film and watch Isaiah Collier in transition. On this possession, Collier does a really nice job sizing up his man and crossing and changing pace to a nice finish. What I love to see here is Collier get his balance under him and have a nice score. Collier's a very muscular player who's very strong, and this allows him to have nice finishes where he initiates contact. On this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to do something that is known as cutting the court. For those of you who don't know, cutting the court is pretty much when you dribble over this line right here. When Collier does that, he draws the attention of this defender, and he forces these defenders right here, who are all looking at him because they think Collier is coming towards them. Collier has great passing vision and makes an insane assist. On this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to be in a refuse situation with a drag screen, and as you saw there, really great stuff, amazing change of pace. Ooh, that's just pretty, and a nice 2-foot finish. On this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to refuse a drag screen again. However, it's another crafty spin move finish. It doesn't go in, but I really like the play. On this next clip, Isaiah Collier is going to call for another drag screen in transition. The screen occurs here, and he makes the simple pocket pass for an assist. Isaiah Collier also has flashes where he can occasionally shoot, and we'll see this right here where he takes the drag screen, the defender goes under, and when the defense goes under, you have the green light to shoot, and Collier says money. On this next possession, USC is going to run a cross play, which is pretty much just this pitchback that occurs right here, and then the pitchback goes into a screen, and Collier knocks it down. One issue that Collier does have is forcing shots, and that's no different than in transition. Right here, what I don't like to see from Collier is the fact that he picks up the basketball here. I think he could take another step. He doesn't get his balance under him, and he forces it up when if he had taken another dribble and jump stopped, it could have been a dump off assist. In this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to be involved in a Spain pick and roll action. Well, for those of you who don't know, Spain pick and roll is pretty much this right here, where the screener is screened. This allows Isaiah Collier to get downhill with a mismatch, and wow, what an impressive finish. In this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to go against a drop coverage, and what he does really well here is he takes a nice probe dribble, keeping this man on his hip. However, I don't like the fact that he almost over probe dribbles. There could be a chance for him to just make this simple pocket pass here, but he does have a really solid mid-range game, and I don't mind that shot. It's a pretty good shot. In this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to go in for a mid-range shot with a 2-foot finish. This nice kind of 5-footer touch shot. He once again probes his man, keeps him on his hip, spins, and goes in for that little 7 to 5 foot touch shot. One issue that he does have is he does at times settle against drop coverage. We're going to see this on this possession. Collier calls for the ball screen, sees the drop, and takes the long 2, which is the worst shot in basketball. Another way that he's able to score in the pick and roll is through splitting and passing and creating for others. Right here, he splits the screen, and wow, what an amazing job reading and kicking. Another example of this is this possession right here, where Isaiah Collier is going to attempt to snake versus drop coverage. Basically, for those of you who don't know, think what Chris Paul does basically every game, is making this S right here, which is exactly what Collier does, and then he has a nice floater finish. On this possession, he attempts to do a snake dribble again, and it leads to a turnover, partially due to over dribbling. Right here, he continues to dribble, and I actually like the attempt at a Nash dribble when you go under the basket right here. However, when he picks it up, he just kind of forces it and is out of control. There are times where it just looks like Collier is not fully engaged in the basketball game, and that you saw there. On this possession, Collier doesn't play off of 2 feet, and it leads to a miss. He jumps off of 1 and is fading away off balance, which is unfortunate. On this possession, Isaiah Collier once again calls for another pick and roll, but forces up not the best shot. I like his move right here to get into the 3. However, I'd like to see him be in a little more rhythm before we try a step back deeper 3. He created separation, but for someone who is not the best shooter percentage-wise, I'd like to at least be later into the game when you've gotten yourself going before we try these. On this possession, Isaiah Collier once again showcases his ability to refuse ball screens. He's going to call for a ball screen right here, refuse, and wow, he's just really good at that. This is one of his strengths and something that he does at an elite level. Once again, another empty ball screen, or another wing ball screen. It wasn't empty, and he does a great job refusing to score. On this possession, he's going to refuse and flow into a nice shot, showing you that it is a part of his game he has worked on. I like this shot, it's a good move, and wow, he looks confident with the basketball. Now, let's look at him coming off of dribble handoff situations. Right here, Isaiah Collier is going to come off of a DHO and then make a lot of moves in order to get into a nice 2-foot finish. Really good stuff. His balance and size is really great, especially from a point guard, and I think that's something that's going to help him a lot in developing his game. Right here, it's a left drive after a dribble handoff with a nice finish. One thing that I think he could be better at is when it comes to when he should hand off. Right here, he makes a great decision choosing to keep the basketball because this man right here is focused on help, and this guy is expecting Isaiah Collier not to have the ball, and it's a really great move. However, he just doesn't fully get under himself. I'd like to see him do this more because he actually does it at a very high rate, and I really only saw it in this game where he missed it. On this possession, Isaiah Collier is going to come off of a dribble handoff in this zoom action. For those of you who don't know, a zoom is pretty much a ball screen into a dribble handoff right here. As this occurs, Collier gets downhill, but once again, he just forces up a shot. There's a big difference between getting into your spots and taking a mid-range and doing this, especially if he could maybe make a pass to the corner and lead this man. On this possession, let's watch Isaiah Collier in a double drag situation. For those of you who don't know, a double drag is exactly how it sounds, which is pretty much just 2 ball screens occurring right here. As these screens occur, Collier comes in, recognizes that the defender is not fully paying attention and went under the first time, so he calls for another screen. And as he calls for the other screen, the defender goes under again, and Collier makes him pay. This is another double drag situation right here, where Collier does a nice job getting to his spot. It just doesn't fall. On this next clip, Isaiah Collier says, "I'm going to get to the cup." He faces up with his man after the switch, and look at that, he finishes off of 2 feet. Just look how poised he looks when he jump stops and scores. It's really nice to see. Now, let's watch Isaiah Collier in isolation. Right here, he's going to be guarded by Cody Williams, who is another draft prospect, actually mocked in a very similar area of the draft. And Isaiah Collier tells him to get in the weight room. Look at this bump right here. Ooh, just really fun and great to see. On this possession, Isaiah Collier has a switch where he's now guarded by a center. He faces up with a center and then uses his size. And what I love to see here is he finishes with his inside hand. And what's good about that is it allows his shoulder right here to protect him from getting blocked. On this possession, Isaiah Collier is able to once again create in an isolation situation as he gets the ball at the top of the key here. He gets into the paint, and what I love seeing is he draws this defender in, and as soon as that happens, he makes the easy kick, and it leads to a 3. One thing that he could improve on in isolation is his shot selection. Right here, I don't love him forcing this on Cody Williams. I would have preferred if he honestly just floated into a mid-range shot here. However, taking the extra dribble was not necessary, especially against a lanky defender like Williams. One thing that is part of Isaiah Collier's game that he needs to work on is jumping without a plan. Far too often, Collier will jump up like this possession, not knowing what he wants to do, and it leads to a turnover. Because Collier is so talented and skilled, he's used to being able to make plays such as this one right here, where he jumps up and makes an incredible skip pass. Unfortunately, in the NBA, that's far often than not going to be the case, and it's much more often going to be like the first clip we saw. Now let's watch him as just kind of a spot-up guy, being able to space the floor. It's not something he does a ton, as he's typically more of an on-ball guard, but as we see right here, he knocks down a really deep 3, and it looked good. His shot's definitely a little slow. It's not the prettiest, but it's not ugly. It's definitely one of the shots in the draft class. I don't think it's something that's going to hinder him, but I also don't think it's something that's going to move him up teams' draft boards. Right here, he's ready to shoot and knocks it down. On this possession, Isaiah Collier showcases really nice instincts in attempting to get open. As you see here, he drifts to the corner for 3 and knocks it down. Another thing that is important is being able to attack closeouts. On this possession, Collier does a great job attacking the closeout and finishing through contact. Right here, he does once again a really good job at attacking closeouts. Collier's ready off the ball here. He catches it, pump fakes, and a nice left-hand finish. Really great stuff. Now let's move on and discuss Isaiah Collier on the defensive end. There are a couple of strengths that stand out for Collier, but the number one is a high motor. He's very engaged and is always competing on the defensive end. Secondly, he has very active hands, and this allows him to get steals and impact the passing lanes. Finally, he's very strong and physical, which is another plus to his game. Overall, he's kind of like a hustle Pat Bev type defensively, just maybe not as skilled, but I think he could develop that, and I love seeing how hard he plays defensively, even if he doesn't have necessarily the footwork down yet. There are some pretty large weaknesses to Collier on the defensive end. The first of which is the fact that he frequently will try to play behind his man. And what I mean by that is he will go over top of screens and he won't necessarily try to bully them, but he'll then try to use his active hands to tip the ball out, leading to a turnover. While he's very good at this, it's a bad habit and it's not going to work as well against NBA players. Secondly, there are stretches where he will cheat, and that frequently leads to him giving up refuses in pick and roll situations. His final issue is just his overall screen navigation. Whether it's off ball or on ball, he does have a bad tendency to get clipped, and part of this is because of his habit to try to play behind his guy. Now let's watch Isaiah Collier's film defensively. On this possession, Collier picks up full court and showcases a little bit of what you like to see. He's being engaged, and he's making it difficult for the Washington State man. While he's not fully present and on him, he is engaged, and as you see right here, amazing work with his hands to tip the ball off his knee. On this next possession, Isaiah Collier does a good job in the gaps here, and then he rotates back out to his man and takes a charge. I love seeing this hustle from Collier because he's in the gaps, which is great, rotates, talks, and gets back. Perfect defense. On this next possession, Isaiah Collier was involved in a DHO situation. As we see right here, he goes under on the dribble handoff, and then we'll fight over, and then this is the playing from behind that I mentioned, but here he recovers and fights. However, because he's playing from behind, it leads to this stop, causing that separation, and it is an open mid-range. On this situation, Isaiah Collier is in a pick and roll. He gets clipped, leading to a switch. Now guarding against the bigger defender, he competes and makes it hard for him. And because Collier is so physical, he kind of is able to get his elbow into him a little bit. Just really good stuff. On this possession, Collier is clipped. Really bad screen navigation here. I'd like to see Collier get into this guy a little bit more and be directing the play. You don't want to be a reactionary defender, but frequently that's what he is. Collier plays from behind him and then falls for a pump fake. Not the best. Right here, it's another instance of Collier getting clipped. As you see on this possession, he gets clipped, leading to a probe dribble and an easy, relatively open shot. Right here, while Collier is going to get beat by the screen, his active hands allow him to recover, and the refuse isn't the end of the world. Finally, let's watch him playing from behind just a little bit more so we can get a feel of how that works. As you see right here, is put in a probe situation, but once again, he relies on his hands to make a play. In this final clip, Isaiah Collier is going to play from behind on the dribble handoff. As this zoom action occurs right here, he just kind of fully plays from behind his man and then has a dumb foul trying to get a block. Not the best from Isaiah. Overall, Isaiah Collier is a very interesting prospect. Had you asked many media members last October, the majority of them would have told you that Isaiah Collier was a surefire #1 overall pick. While part of this may have been the fact that he was in a star power heavy school at USC, the hype was there. In the current day, he's viewed much more often as a mid-first round pick or maybe a fringe top 10 guy. In my opinion, I would pick him anywhere from 17 to 25. When looking at what his career could be, I would say his ceiling is being a nice facilitating level guard that can run the offense and be a real contributor as the 5th starter. I think when you're looking at what Collier can do, his ability to make some high-level passes is very promising. However, it's not as promising when so many of those high-level passing attempts lead to turnovers. If he cleans up his turnovers and can become more mature on the defensive end and funnel in that high energy that he very clearly has and that effort that he very clearly has, he could be one of the very solid starting guards in the NBA. What I think his more likely outcome is going to be is to be kind of that 7th guy off the bench. Think of like a much better version of a Monte Morris, where you're kind of being fundamentally sound. Collier is I think a couple inches taller and more athletic, and so Collier could be a little bit more explosive, but run the second unit, be the second scorer off the second unit, and just be a real contributing piece to an NBA roster. When looking at his floor, I think if he doesn't clean up some of the bad habits defensively and also on the offensive end and has a more average assist to turnover ratio, his career could be a little bit on the shorter end. However, I'd be surprised if he didn't at least get a second contract, just because of the fact that he does have so much athleticism and he has a really good build and he's really strong. By second contract, I don't mean that he's going to get the 5th-year rookie extension, but I think he will at least get a 2-way contract from a team if his first team doesn't work out. Overall, I want to thank y'all for watching another episode of The Rim Review, and let me know your opinions on Isaiah Collier in the comments. Thanks again.